Hi everyone, Ashley here and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing how to make this fun slimline slider card using some of the newer Lawn Fawn stamps. This is their special delivery stamp set and a little bit of their special delivery box add-on stamp set as well, but also mixing that with some older stamp sets to really create this scene where it looks like the little mice are on the left side with their typewriter and the owl is delivering their messages. So without further ado, let's get into it. Off camera, I cut out a bunch of the pieces that will be going into the scene building of this card. The base is just a slimline sized die cut rectangle with a slider channel die cut into it, which is just that wavy opening. I also cut this piece of wallpaper out of patterned paper, as well as a wood grain textured paper for the floor, and then a thin strip of red that will act as sort of the brick barrier of the house, between the house inside and outside. I also cut out a little piece of white cardstock that will go behind that slider channel so that the clouds peek through rather than just having plain white peeking through. So I'm starting with the blending, and I knew that the right side of the card was going to be like the outside, so I started by blending on some grass using a Lawn Fawn grassy stencil and some Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink. So I'm just blending that ink right over the stencil. And the great thing about these stencils is that they are two-sided, so you can use the other side of the stencil to cover up the inking you just did so that it doesn't get inked by your next color. So I've done that. I just taped the stencil right over the grass that I had ink blended with green. And now I can come in with a blue color, this is Tumbled Glass, Distress Oxide ink, and start blending that right on without worrying about it going over the grass. I'm then bringing in my cloudy stencil to create a cloud pattern, and I'm just kind of going up one at a time, rotating the stencil as I go so I can get those different cloudy patterns along the way. And then just blending on a little bit of blue ink onto each rotation. And this really helps build this beautiful cloudy pattern in your background. And I went all the way up to the top. So there you can see the outside of the card is completely done on that right side. I'm also blending on some clouds onto that background piece, which, like I mentioned, will kind of go behind the open slider channel so that as you see through the slider channel, it's just more clouds. It's not more, card base or anything. So that is just blended in the exact same way. Now I wanted this little red strip to look like red bricks, like the house is made out of red bricks. So I took my brick stencil and lined it up over that small strip and then just blended on some brown Distress Oxide ink. I believe this is Walnut stain. And it was super easy to just blend on because it's such a tiny piece. The stencil kind of kept falling off, but I would just kind of put it back on where I could see it was meant to be, and just keep blending. And it creates this cool little brick pattern. So now it's time to get into the stamping. The stamp sets that I'm using are Special Delivery, Love Poems, You're Just My Type, Just For You, Meow You Doin, Special Delivery Box Add-on, and that's it. So I just kind of flipped those through so you could see them, but I will also list all of these stamp sets and all of the supplies that I use on my card down in the description box below the video. So if you're ever interested in finding out exactly what I'm using in my cards, just check down there and you'll see exactly. So I'm stamping out a bunch of images from these stamp sets in black ink, and I'm using a Copic friendly ink here. I'm using My Favorite Things Extreme Black, which I find is really nice for Copic coloring. And I'm stamping out onto some Neenah Solar White paper, which is, again, very good for Copic coloring. Stamping out a whole bunch of images that I think I'll need, so the little bird with the wings, some of his mail accessories like the hat and the pouch, a whole bunch of different letters, a little cat that I thought would be cute to be sitting beside the desk itself, the typewriter, the little piece of paper, so just kind of stamping everything in. For each image, I am stamping it twice in black ink just to make sure I get a really nice crisp impression. So once I'm done with all the stamping and I've stamped out all the images that I think I'll want from those sets, it's time to go ahead and start coloring. And I'm using my Copic markers for the coloring of these images. I've talked a lot about my Copic coloring technique in many other of my videos, so if you do want to hear more about exactly how I color with Copics, I encourage you to check out some of my other videos. I color with Copics in almost every card that I make, so go check some of my other videos out and you'll see more about my Copic coloring technique. For this video, I am just going to let some music play, and you can feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy the coloring process. If you don't want to watch the coloring, then of course feel free to skip ahead in the video, and we will resume after the coloring to finish off building out the rest of the card. So I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, so all of the images have been colored, and off camera I did cut them all out. So now I am ready to start assembling the card. In order to begin, I'm starting by building out this slider mechanism. And I knew that I wanted the owl to be the part of the slider. So I'm just sort of assembling all the pieces that go along with the owl. So I put the little hat and the little purse onto the owl with some liquid glue, and I'm putting a little letter into each of the wings of the owl so it looks like it's carrying those letters. I knew I wanted it to be carrying this box using those strings, so I'm just gluing a few extra letters into the box and then gluing the strings of the box onto the box as well, and just holding those little pieces down with my fingers for a few seconds until the liquid glue dries. So once all of those are glued together, I can then glue the strings onto the foot of the owl so that as he slides through the air, he'll be carrying, or she'll be carrying, the little box along with it. So now that all of that is glued together, it's time to actually build out the slider mechanism. So I cut out a scalloped piece of cardstock out of some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock to fit the entire slimline card, and I just glued that right onto a card base with some liquid glue. So next I'm gluing on that background piece with the clouds that will be behind the slider channel, and then I can just glue the whole slider channel right on top. Before I do that, I am assembling the rest of the scene building element, so I'm just gluing that piece of wallpaper onto that left side, which by the way, that's a piece of Lawn Fawn pattern paper, then that little white woodgrain floor, and then finally that piece of red brick wall, which I will glue with some liquid glue again right into the middle. So now that that piece is ready to go, it's time to adhere it down onto the card base and set up the slider mechanism. Slider mechanisms always need foam because of course that slider needs some space to slide. It needs some dimension there. It can't just be flat against a card or it won't slide. So I'm adding some foam all around the back of that card panel, just making sure to leave adequate space for the slider channel itself. So I don't want the slider mechanism, which is just a dime in my case, to be hitting any of that foam. So I just left lots of space. And then I can release the release paper and tape that down onto the card base. In order to build out the slider mechanism, I'm taking a slider element from My Favorite Things, which is just like a little piece of white plastic, and just using some double-sided tape to adhere that to the dime and then to adhere it to the owl. So then once you've done that, the owl will slide back and forth using the dime behind in that slider channel, which is super fun. So then it's just time to sort of adhere all the rest of these images to the card and really just build out the rest of the scene. So to do that, I'm just gluing these typewriter elements together. So I glued the mouse behind the typewriter and then the typewriter onto the desk. I glued a couple of those little card images that come in the Just For You stamp set onto the desk as well, and then I can just glue the entire thing onto the card panel. I also put a little mouse sitting at the typewriter because I thought the idea is that this mouse is typing out the notes and then passing them off to the mailman, which is the owl. I wanted a little cat sleeping down by the desk because I have 2 cats and I love cats. And of course, I always have to color the cat images like my cat, so I have one cat that's completely gray, which is why I colored this cat gray, which I think is so cute. Then outside, I just went ahead and glued down a couple more images, a little mailbox, a little mouse holding a note, and a couple more notes on the ground. And for these, I did make sure to just glue them straight down to the card panel so that the owl would have space to slide over them. So that is it. That is the card for today. It looks like a very complex card, but it actually was not so hard to come together. And when you do turn it back and forth, you see that the owl slides in its little channel. It doesn't slide all the way super easily. I think it's just the way that that little slider element is placed on the dime. It gets a little bit stuck, but it does go if you kind of give it a little push. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned a little bit about making slider mechanisms. If you did enjoy, please do subscribe to my channel and check out my Instagram account, which is linked down below, where I post a lot more cards as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!